Hello and welcome to Origin IAS. Today, we will discuss a very important topic, or I should say, a very important problem, the problem of balance. On one side, we have economy, and on the other side, we have COVID-19, or this virus, this pandemic due to which all of us are at home, locked at home, and we are fighting for our lives, for our loved ones' lives. So here, one is economy, and on the other hand, we have this virus. Now the problem is, if I go out to make money or to buy something, there's a possibility of transmission. And if I stay at home, there is a possibility of no transmission, but on the other hand, the economy of an individual as well as the nation also suffers. So let's get back in time. 1st of January, that was 30th of January when the first case was reported in Kerala. Then we got a lockdown on 24th of March when we got 500 and plus cases. So it can be easily analyzed. After 500 and plus cases of corona, we got a lockdown, that was lockdown 1.0. And after this 1.0 lockdown, even though the 1.0 was very strict and we were appreciated internationally and nationally for our lockdown, the lockdown has eased after 1.0. Further easing in a phase-wise manner was done in 2.0, then in 3.0, and then finally in 4.0. You see that trains have started working, the airlines on the domestic scale have started working, even many of the shops are opened. We recently saw when liquor shops were opened, long queues for kilometers were there, but the basic challenge was people were not following social distancing. And in the present scenario also, when we are living in the situation of Lockdown 4.0. The strangest part is about the stats. Just having a look at the present stats, we can see nearly 86,000 people are currently suffering from corona, where 64,000 have recovered, and on the other hand, deaths. The most sorry part of this particular issue is 4,500 people have lost their life to this virus. As I was talking about, the lockdown 4.0 in which we are currently going through. The scenario is in 8 days, nearly 50,000 cases have been reported and we have lost 170 in 24 hours. 170 deaths to this virus in 24 hours just in this current duration where we are having 4.0 lockdown. The number of infections has also doubled. This is a very big question, like in 14 days the number of infection has doubled. So this is a very big challenge, and if we continue the same pace, there's a possibility that we may overtake in casualties as well as in cases to Italy or Britain, or even if such pace goes for a long time, we may even overtake USA in this. That is, the number of cases as well as the number of casualties can increase if the same pace of transmission takes place. Thus, there's a big question on the effectiveness of the lockdown 4.0. But the challenge here arises is that with the lockdown, we have to also balance economy. It's like walking on a rope. A little balance left or a little balance right and you are down. And that is just like walking on a rope which is like tied to two cliffs. On the other hand, the first and foremost part, as we talked about the challenges of the COVID cases, the economy also has certain amount of challenges. First is fiscal deficit. The problem is government has a limited amount of money and it has to spend for welfare as well as for upliftment as well as for hospitals, super specialty hospitals, for having corona centers or corona care centers and other things. Here lies the problem of fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit of the government is increasing. Also, the problem with states is earlier also states were running through less revenue because after the roll down of GST, there was a problem that states had less revenue as VAT and other important state tax were taken into GST. Foreign investment also have been whimsical these days because foreign investment depend on a clear policy of the nation, and currently no nation is in a condition to present a clear policy for the future. Thus, the condition of foreign investment, that is FDI and FPI, are a little whimsical. So is the equity, because both are nearly interlinked. More companies, more investment, more equities. These are all interlinked matters. On the other hand, trade barriers have also increased. As you can see, globalization, the corona or virus can be said as a negative impact of globalization. Now the countries will turn protectionist, as well as there is a possibility that they may add on other trade barriers, which can be tariff, non-tariff, and other kinds of barriers. Also, because of no manufacturing, there's no demand, no manufacturing, thus there's a possibility that the manufacturing sector will suffer. Suffering of manufacturing sector will lead to non-payment of loans. Non-payment of loans will cause increase in the NPA. So there's a case of spike in NPA possible. Also, many of the economists are advising to increase the liquidity by printing new notes. But the problem is, as you increase the liquidity, the inflation also increases. That can be a double impact for the current scenario, because if the inflation increases, things get expensive, as well as people have less money. In that case, more money will be running behind less goods, and thus increase in the amount and scarcity will arise. Also, this is connected to demand increasing or the mobilization of demand. If we don't have liquidity, money to buy, the customers don't buy things, so there's no demand, and if there is no demand, then there is no manufacturing. So all these economic aspects or economic factors on the international, national, state or central level are interrelated. So we need to understand all of them to balance economy. So we talked about the economic challenges. Let's talk about the challenges which India is facing at large. Firstly is, as our health minister said, now we need to learn to live with the virus. So the new normal is we have to live with the virus. Also, we have to prepare in forward direction to understand and how can we sustain with the virus without getting into it, getting transmission of the virus or being a carrier of the virus. We have to take care of sanitation, cleanliness, as well as social distancing. On the other hand, one more issue which is arising right now is the politicization. Some of the politicians are questioning the lockdown. They're saying the effectiveness of lockdown is not that much. It's not doing any good to the public. On the other hand, the ruling party or the other people are saying that it is effective and it's doing good. So I don't think it should be politicized. This is a question of life and death. So it's better that we keep it out of politics and we work together to get out of this pandemic situation. People also should be aware, and also they should strictly follow the social distancing and personal cleanliness and sanitation, and try to avoid getting out of their houses. The migrant issue, as we are covering for many days, you might be watching a lot of videos regarding migrant laborers, how they're walking, like they're compelled to walk barefooted or with minimum resources from big cities and metros like Delhi, Bombay, Surat and other places. So the situation is altogether not very well for all of the people around. Like economy is suffering, the migrants are suffering, the manufacturing side, the customers, consumers, everybody suffering. On the other hand, if you see the testing, India is a big country. It has a huge population. We are the second most populated country in the world. So the challenge is big. On the other hand, the price of testing as well as the quantum of testing is a big question. Is a very big issue. We are not like small European countries which are equal in population as well as area to a state of India. So we have a big challenge of size as well as the quantum of testing. So these are to be catered, and on this level we need to put some focus. As I was talking earlier, we have to discuss the present as well as the future with Corona. As I discussed about the present, the future of Corona is more and more people are going to be on internet. When you are planning to have a meeting, you'll have a conference, you'll have a video call, you'll have a webinar, you'll be more on social media. When you think of getting entertainment, you won't run to a cinema hall, you'll go on a OTT platform and watch something, a web series or something. That is what is going to happen. Nowadays, the trend of work from home has increased, and in the future also the MNCs will try to encourage work from home so that they save a lot of money. Also, the use of internet will also increase drastically. The rise in social media and other things were there, but now the penetration will also increase as well as the presence of people will also increase on internet. Students will also have advantage with this. Like earlier, there used to be platforms of education for higher studies, but now even schools are planning to have a curriculum which is digital and on digital platforms. Thus, on a digital platform that will be very effective, like student will be having flexibility as well as independence of learning. He would be able to learn whatever he feels like learning and with a flexible timetable. Like suppose you have a class at 10 a.m. That doesn't mean you have to be at 10 a.m. You can pause it, play it whenever you want and according to your discretion. Even government is taking some steps in the same direction. Like Pradhan Mantri recently, like PME with their portal or program has been launched. This will help in digital online education. Travel and tourism is going to be a big challenge. People will be very wary about going somewhere, places like tourism, even traveling. Suppose if there is a possibility of traveling, you'll try to procrastinate it or try to avoid it as far as possible. This is going to be the basic ideology of people, and that is good also. That will prevent transmission, as well as social distancing also will be maintained. On the other hand, if we see the future of tourism, there's a possibility that we'll be going towards sustainable ways of tourism, which will be greener, effective, and there would be limit to the inflow of population or inflow of people or tourists in every country now. So tourism and travel will have all new definition in the future. Also, we have seen a lot of robots have been introduced for treatment processes and diagnosis during this COVID-19 scenario. So there's a possibility that there is acceleration in the adoption of artificial intelligence and robot in future, and that will be helping us in autonomous robot cleaning as well as supporting labor forces. So as more and more robots come into the labor forces, there is a possibility that more and more people will lose job. So more robots means more loss of job. This is going to be something which we need to focus on. As I discussed, more robots, that means more unemployment, more labor intensive things, labor intensive machinery or labor intensive factories will be shut down, and more capital intensive, machine intensive and robot intensive units will come in line. That is, if we generally see the stats, 27% of people in US, mostly have lost their job due to this crisis. If we talk about numbers, that's nearly 26 million people have lost their jobs. On the other hand, unemployment benefits have become a reality now. Earlier, we used to think about there should be something like unemployment benefit when we have Industrial Revolution 4.0. But when we see coronavirus outside our houses, there's a possibility that we have to think about basic income, because unemployment is going to increase, and in that scenario, basic income is required. So, when the lockdown easing is done, how the transmission increases? Let us understand with Dr. Shukman's ideas. Suppose a person, I'll mark it here in the center, is affected, and there are a lot of people around sitting. There's a possibility that if this person is speaking, those droplets from his mouth will be circulating throughout this wagon. And when these droplets are circulating throughout the wagon, there's a possibility of infection to all the passengers in the train. So this is going to be a scenario in a closed place. On the other hand, if we see this person right here. So this person, if he sneezes or if he's talking, there's a possibility that same scenario as a train takes place, and these droplets circulate throughout the restaurant, and all these people around get infected because of this. So in future, there's a possibility that we have to avoid closed room like restaurants or train wagons which are air conditioned, and we have to go for different architecture which is more well ventilated so that we can avoid this droplet infection due to this virus. Also, open areas, when virus gets into the contact in open areas, like on a bench in a park or something, the UV rays which are on the virus, they kill the virus in some time. But in that case also, we need to be very effective and very cautious about using the open areas like benches, public taps, and other things which are generally used. So finally, we discussed a little about the combination of economy as well as corona. How can we balance both of the things? Let us conclude our discussion. The first and foremost important thing is we need to be selective in our lockdown. Earlier, what used to happen, we have pointed out 3 hotspots like red, orange, and yellow. Now, the government needs to be more selective about making a small area which is affected to be a hotspot, and just containment should be made in that region only, so that the complete economy or the complete system of the town or particular place is not affected highly, or the particular district is not affected. On the other hand, we need to have new strategies to deal with new normals. Like if we have to live with corona, we have to be very effective in our places like public places gathering, like transportation of trains, or when we are going to a restaurant for having lunch, everything we need to understand this new normal and we need to get it in our lives. For that, we need to follow safe practices of washing hands, maintaining a distance, try to stay at home as far as possible, try to avoid unnecessary going out of the house, as well as social distancing. These things are very effective, and this will make us get into the new normal as easy as possible. Lastly, as I told, there's a possibility of increase in AI and robotics. When AI and robotics increase, unemployment will increase. Thus, government needs to have an effective policy and should think over what should be the idea of basic income for India in specific. So this was a discussion. We tried to give you ideas about economy and living with this virus as a new normal. If you like this video, please share, subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Origin IAS.